Day 16 Word of God Psalms 128-5. The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion, and thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life. Psalm chapter 128 is part of the Songs of Ascents, a collection of psalms, Psalms 120,134, traditionally sung by the Israelites as they made their pilgrimage to Jerusalem for the annual feasts. This particular psalm focuses on the blessings that come from fearing the Lord and walking in His ways. It portrays a picture of a prosperous and blessed family life under God's favor, extending beyond the individual to the community of God's people. Psalm chapter 128 verse 5, specifically, is a blessing that ties personal well-being to the prosperity of the whole city of Jerusalem, symbolizing God's favor upon His people and the land. The Lord shall bless thee out of Zion signifies that the source of blessing is the Lord Himself, and it comes from Zion, which is another name for Jerusalem, the spiritual and political center of Israel. Zion represents the place where God's presence dwells, the location of the temple, and the heart of Israel's worship. This phrase indicates that blessings flow from God's dwelling place and are bestowed upon those who honor Him. It assures believers that God's blessings are not arbitrary but are connected to His presence and His promises. And thou shalt see the good of Jerusalem all the days of thy life expresses the hope and promise of witnessing the prosperity and peace of Jerusalem throughout one's lifetime. The good of Jerusalem refers to the welfare, stability, and flourishing of the city, which was central to Israel's spiritual and communal life. This promise suggests that a life lived in alignment with God's will brings both personal blessings and contributes to the well-being of the broader community. It reflects a vision where individual faithfulness results in communal harmony and prosperity. When Solomon dedicated the temple in Jerusalem, he prayed for God's blessing over the city and its people, asking that God's presence would remain there and that His blessings would flow from Zion. 1 Kings chapter 8 verse 22-61. God's presence in the temple was seen as the source of all blessings for the nation. In Psalm chapter 122 verse 6-9, David urges people to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and connects the peace and prosperity of the city with blessings for those who love it. This reflects the idea that God's blessing upon Zion brings about good for all who dwell in or support it. In Luke chapter 19 verse 41-44, Jesus weeps over Jerusalem because the city did not recognize the time of your visitation. This reflects the profound spiritual significance of Jerusalem as the city where God desires to bring peace and blessing, but which must be receptive to Him. Revelation chapter 21 describes a new Jerusalem coming down from heaven, where God will dwell with His people, and there will be no more sorrow or pain. This reflects the ultimate fulfillment of seeing the good of Jerusalem as a place of eternal blessing and communion with God. For believers today, Psalm chapter 128 verse 5 is a reminder that God's blessings are both personal and communal, flowing from His presence and His promises. It encourages us to seek God's favor and to live in alignment with His will, knowing that this brings not only personal well-being but also contributes to the welfare of the community and nation. This verse challenges us to recognize that our faithfulness to God can have a broader impact, influencing the peace and prosperity of the places where we live and worship. This verse also invites us to pray for and seek the good of our communities, our cities, and even our nations. In a time when division and discord are prevalent, Psalm chapter 128 verse 5 reminds us that God desires to bring about the good of Jerusalem, or any place where His people dwell, through His blessings. Ultimately, it calls us to live as conduits of God's peace and goodness, trusting that as we honor God, we will see His blessings manifest in our lives and our communities. God bless you and give you grace after grace.